Hey, what's up, everybody? It's just Charles Advance, and welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamers Pro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And today we got a bombshell show for you guys here today. But before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and sub to the channel. So, as you guys remember, back in 2020, during the pandemic, Michael Jordan dropped The Last Dance docuseries. And it absolutely took over the sports world. I mean, we were all glued to it. I think the first weekend they published two episodes, and then they were releasing, I think it was an episode every week or two episodes. I don't remember. I think it was one. I don't remember. But I know the first week it was two. And we were just captivated, right? Especially us younger fans that didn't really get to witness Michael Jordan in his prime because we weren't old enough, just to kind of to go back in that time. It was almost like a time capsule. You went back there and you were in the 90s, kind of witnessing the rise of Michael Jordan and the historic dynastic run of the Chicago Bulls. And we all thought it was great. But little did we know that at the end of the docuseries, it would spark this, salvo and just all out assault from Scottie Pippen towards Michael Jordan and his former teammate, Michael Jordan, and his former head coach, Phil Jackson. And the entire thing was really set off during a Dan Patrick interview that Scottie Pippen did, where he absolutely went to town. And on top of it all, he ended up calling Phil Jackson a racist. And a lot of us were just absolutely floored. And I remember when we covered this. So for those of you who don't remember the explosive comments that Scottie Pippen made 5 years ago, we want to play for you now, and then we're going to come back and continue on the show. Take a listen to Scottie Pippen here on the Dan Patrick Show.
Help me understand the GQ article where you talked about the 1994 playoff game when you refused to go back in the game and Phil set up the play for Tony Kukoc.
Well, I mean, it's not much to be said. If you go back and look at when Scottie Pippen entered the Bulls and when Tony Kukoc entered the Bulls, and who deserved the last shot of the game.
No. I understand that, Scottie. I'm just going by what you said. You said you need to read between the fine lines. And then you go on to say it was a racial move to give him, Tony Kukoc, a rise. So,
well, I mean, if you knew that Scottie Pippen had been with the Bulls from 87, battled through the Pistons and every other team that we had to get to those three championships, wouldn't you give Scottie Pippen one opportunity to get a last-second shot without Michael Jordan? Like 1 year without Michael Jordan. Can I get one shot? Like, I'm doing all the dirty work.
But all of that I understand from the basketball standpoint. But when you say a racial move,
well, why would Tony, who was a rookie, get the last-second shot and you put me out of bounds? That's what I mean, racial. Like, that was Scottie Pippen's team.
But
Scottie
Phil
Pippen
then
was
but,
on pace to be an MVP that year, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, why would you put him in a position not to be successful? Why wouldn't you put him in a position to succeed? Michael Jordan is not there. So who's next in line for you?
But have you talked to Phil about this? Because by saying a racial move, then you're calling Phil a racist.
I don't got a problem with that.
Do you think Phil was or is?
Oh, yeah. I mean, do you remember Phil Jackson left the Lakers, wrote a book on Kobe Bryant, and then came back and coached him? I mean, who would do that? You name someone in professional sports that would do that. I think he tried to expose Kobe in a way that he shouldn't have. You're the head coach, and you're the guy that sits in the locker room and tells the players, this is a circle, and everything stays within the circle, because that's what team is about. But you as the head coach, open it up, and now you go out and you try to belittle, at that time, probably one of the greatest players in the game.
Well, it feels like he's disloyal. I don't know if that makes him a racist.
Well, that's your way of putting it out, and I have my way. I was in the locker room with him. I was in practices with him. you're looking for him afar.
Yeah, and look, that's why I wanted to have you on. But I go back, and Phil designed a play for Steve Kerr when Mike was there, and Mike didn't have a problem with that, did he?
I don't understand. You're not setting me up to answer the right question. What do you mean Phil set up a play for Steve Kerr? He didn't set that play for Steve Kerr. He set that play for Michael Jordan.
I thought in the huddle, Mike says, "I'm going to throw you the ball. You'll be open at the foul line." And Phil had nothing to do with that?
And you don't want to get this show started because it'll take us a long time. Do you know all those cameras that's sitting in that huddle who they was working for?
The NBA.
So you know who Michael was speaking to when he said that, right? that was planned. That was speaking to the camera. That wasn't speaking out of what we're going to have to do, what the play is going to be. That was speaking to the camera. Had John Stockton not came down, trust me. But that was building his own documentary because he knew he was controlling the cameras.
So you heard what Scottie Pippen had to say there. So yesterday they were interviewing. I came across a clip from the Dan Patrick show where they were interviewing Phil Jackson, right? And I don't know, like it was just something that just popped up on my radar. And they were there talking about this new book that I think he was in collaboration with someone that I forgot the gentleman's name with. And then Dan Patrick ultimately decided to ask Phil Jackson, what did he think about what Scottie Pippen said when he basically went on that tirade? And Phil Jackson, in the typical Phil Jackson fashion, gave you his thoughts. Take a listen to him here.
Phil, over the years, it feels like your relationship with Scottie Pippen has been complicated. Can you expound upon that?
Well, I was assistant coach when Scottie came into the game, and I played with him and against him one-on-one and tried to help his game out a little bit. And I was big in promoting Scottie because, we had Scottie coming off the bench, and I had to sub in as a coach for Doug Collins when he got thrown out of a game. And that was like the immediate thing I did. I put Scottie in the game and up the pressure defense because this is one of the best defensive players ever to play the game. So I had a lot of admiration for him and had a lot of contact with him. He was the on-court guy that I alerted all the time when defensive strategies would come, double teams, traps, etc. Whistle, hey Scottie, it's time, whatever. So yeah, it was shocking to hear the comments that he made. But he had a situation that was coming off the bench, not being able to play the last few seconds of a basketball game that was critical, and it made a big change in his life. Michael called the next day from baseball and said, I don't know if Scottie will ever be able to live this down. And I think it's been a hard thing to live down, refusing to go in a ball game because things didn't go your way.
Michael,
Dan, I wanted to add something briefly with that. I thought it was really poignant. Phil's kept a good relationship with Michael. I've seen him occasionally, but we don't chat as much as he and Phil might. And when some of those things came out, and we talked about this in the book that Phil had asked Michael about that. And Michael really expressed regret. I thought it was really poignant that Michael told Phil that he feels terrible about losing the relationship with Scottie, a 20, 25-year relationship that was closer than a lot of people thought. And so, it struck me as really poignant that Michael felt a loss about this.
Phil, the Dennis Rodman relationship, certainly different, but it almost felt like you had these big personalities and you gave everybody almost their own longitude and latitude. Is that fair to say?
So you heard what Phil had to say. What are my thoughts about this? I think Phil had the same reaction that a lot of people had, which was just utter surprise, right? People were taken aback, like what, right? And then he called him a racist. And the reason he called Phil Jackson was a racist was because he was showing preferential treatment to Tony Kukoc, Now, basketball historians that remember this moment and saw it live would tell you, no, that was absolutely not the case. That Scottie Pippen was just he was just looking for a way to lash out at somebody, and he probably didn't like the fact that this was mentioned in the docuseries, so he just went at everybody, including Michael Jordan and his former head coach. To me, calling Phil Jackson a racist was a bit of a stretch, and the reason I'm gonna say that is because I'd never heard any other player that Phil played for call him a racist. Shaq played for Phil Jackson. I never heard that. Kobe Bryant played for Phil Jackson. I never heard that. Lamar Odom played for Phil Jackson. I never heard that. Derek Fisher played for Phil Jackson. I never heard that. Michael Jordan played with Phil Jackson. I never heard that. For goodness sakes, Michael Jordan said he wouldn't come back if his coach wouldn't return. Would Jordan say that about a racist? I mean, come on. Like, we had never heard anything like that. Like, it was just such a stretch. But it wasn't just what he said about Phil. It was also what he said about Jordan, right? And we've heard Scottie Pippen flip-flop on a lot of the things that he said about Michael Jordan. Some of it later on, which he said was absolutely shocking. Like, the guy was a terrible basketball player, terrible teammate. And I'm like, terrible guy. I'm like, well, if you thought all of these things about him, why were you guys always chummy every time we saw you guys in public? Why did you even decide to participate in the Last Dance docuseries at all if you felt like Jordan was this type of human being, such a deplorable human being? So a lot of us were calling BS on it. And I think unexpectedly what ended up happening was that Scottie ended up turning off a lot of fans. And a lot of Chicago Bull diehard fans were really disappointed in what Scottie Pippen had to say. At the end, like, it didn't work out in his favor. Because a lot of Bulls fans were like, Scottie, what are you doing here? Like, what are you doing? I mean, you're saying MJ's this terrible person, yet every time MJ's talking about you, he's always giving you praise. During your Hall of Fame speech, who was the one that helped spoke on your behalf? Was it not Michael Jordan? Like, it was just crazy stuff. You know, Jordan always gave him credit publicly. So it was pretty interesting finally hearing from Phil Jackson after the aftermath of the Last Dance docuseries. So what I want to know from you guys, what do you think about what Phil had to say? Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section. We catch you guys on the next show. I'm out. Peace.